Hello everyone and welcome to our Hanging on Air about winning with search audience. My name is Nick Darvo and I'm the Managing Director of Performance Solutions at Google. And I'm really thrilled to be joined by Cédric Dupont and Brandon Irvin, who are PMs on our audience products. Welcome guys.
Thank you.
And Laura Musa, our special guest from Adlucent. Hi. Our objective today is really simple. We want to help you use Google's powerful audience solutions, search solutions, to get more customers at a relatively low cost per customer acquisition. Let's take RLSA for example. I don't know if you knew that RLSA on average gets about 10% more conversions at our 53% lower cost per acquisition. Now, of course, these results vary by industry, but if you take retail and travel, for example, we're seeing some of our advertisers get up to 50% more conversions at a really low cost per acquisition. So we're going to dive deep into this today, but prior to our Hangout, we also gathered a number of questions, and we'll take the last few minutes to address all of your questions as well. Before joining Google, I was a search marketer myself. I was in your shoes, and the power of intent of search is obviously very powerful. Like if someone is searching for travel to Montreal in June, they're clearly looking to travel to Montreal. What we're talking about today is layer in another powerful layer, which is audience. Right? With Google Search Audience products, marketing can now overlay that intent with audience. It's a combination of the intent of search and the power of audience, where there's a lot of power. Here's an overview of how this works. If you think about our RLSA products, for example, they allow you to change your campaigns based on what customers are doing on your site. For example, how recently they've been to your website. If you look at customer match, they enable you to change your campaigns and be more relevant based on what customers are doing with your brand. For example, are they customers of yours already or not? And of course, is the intent of what they're searching for. Example, that trip to Montreal in June. It's that combination of what people are doing on your site and their interactions with you, what they're doing with your brand and who they are as a customer, and what they're looking for. That's really, really powerful. So Cédric and Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Welcome.
Can you tell us more about these different audience products?
Yeah, sure. So to start, I'm Cédric. This is Brandon. And I would want to start with RLSA, Marketing List for Search Ads, which you mentioned first. And the reason for that is because that's by far our most mature product. It's been around for a couple of years, and I'm sure a lot of you are already taking advantage of it. And at its most basic level, RLSA helps you prioritize people who have visited and visited your site and interacted with your products. So in order to take advantage of RLSA, you need to add an AdWords marketing tag or Google Analytics tag to your website. And this is quite important that you add this tag to every part of your website. And don't forget your mobile versions as well. Once you've done that and you reminded yourself to regularly check if this tag is still there on all the sites, the new pages that you created, the next step is to build audiences. And our recommendation is to start with the broadest possible audience, which is basically everyone on your website, and then walk down to more narrow and narrow definition of those audiences. So examples of successful audiences we've seen being used as I said, all visitors, maybe visitors to your homepage, visitors to a product page, visitors to a category, perhaps people who have gone all the way to converting, they visit a purchase page, or people who have abandoned your cart. These are all segments that you can use and then narrowly identify the value of each of these users in those states. If you're already using Google Analytics, there's an added benefit of using that tag. Like I said, it's compatible with RLSA. And that's the fact that you can use the 250 plus criteria that Google Analytics offers, things like demographics, for instance, to segment that list further. So in addition to simplicity, the fact that you have already implemented a tag, it gives you that extra bit of horsepower. Now, once you've done all this and you've set up RLSA, how can you actually use it, right? So as said, you can look at past visitors and optimize your campaign. What does that mean? In practice, what it means is you adjust your bids. So you have information about these users. Perhaps they're more valuable once they visit a certain page. Perhaps they're less valuable when they do something else given the objective of your campaigns. And so the way you reflect this is by setting bid adjustments. As Nick, you mentioned earlier, the fact that a person visited your website or interacted in your website is actually a very strong predictor of intent. And you mentioned the 53% decrease in CPAs, and the fact that in certain verticals we see this go a lot further. So in automotive, for instance, CPAs for people on RSA lists are about a third what they are for the average user. And then the second number we're highlighting on this slide is a 10% increase in conversion. So to make sure people understand what that means is that when an advertiser adopts RLSA, they end up seeing 10% more conversions compared to those who did not. So that's for the practical aspects. Now I want to give you some tips and best practices on how to implement RSA. So first, we brought this home a few times already, but RLSA is a great place to start with your audience strategy. It's a very compelling product. It's a very strong. It tends to have a very strong performance associated with it, and particularly because we're able to add people to remarketing lists extremely quickly after they visit your site. So imagine someone goes to your site and immediately afterwards switches for something that you can offer. You can immediately capture this traffic with your RSA lists. Second, we recommend that you use bid only. Again, keywords are paramount in search, and in order to achieve this added layer of performance, you want to adjust the bid that is available for everyone else on this traffic. In fact, if you don't really have a good sense of what the performance of that user segment will be, we recommend that you start with a zero-bid multiplier. You just apply the list, you wait for a few weeks to see how this list performs, and then you can adjust the bid according to performance that you observe. And then finally, we recommend that you actively manage your lists. So this is important because we just talked about a spectrum of lists that you can apply. We recommend that you keep it simple. If you end up with hundreds of lists, or thousands of lists, managing them will become a real burden, and it takes away from the benefit that they provide. So keep the list simple. Use only a few of them and actively manage them. Look at the performance, adapt your bids, etc., etc. All right, now I'd like to switch to our newest member of the search audience family, Custom Match. This product is also designed to reach your highest value customers, but works in a quite different fashion. So what you do with Custom Match is you simply tell us who your users are. There is no website instrumentation. You just identify these users by their email address. The whole process is implemented in a privacy-safe way. You implement a list, basically a list of your customers, and then on our side, we match it against our Google identities and serve the traffic accordingly. So how do you take advantage of this feature, right? So the first thing that Custom Match allows you to do is you're able to mix in offline information about your users in your search campaign. So imagine you're a furniture store and you have people visiting your showroom and dropping their business card or leaving their email address for a future contact. This is a user that you're now able to target with your campaign. That activity is not reflected by any online activity, so other options like RLSA are not applicable here. Then the second thing you can do with Custom Match is reach people beyond 180 days. So 180 days is the maximum duration for RLSA user lists. So that's relatively difficult if your business is a seasonal business, perhaps, where you really only have 1 or 2 chances per year to capture an audience, or if you have campaigns that are targeted to a different goal, like re-engaging lapsed customers. And maybe a lapsed customer is someone who hasn't interacted with you for 6 months. So custom match allows you to do this because there's no real limit on how far back your customers can be added to the list. Then the third thing you can do with custom match is to use the full power of your CRM database. So some of our partners have extremely sophisticated CRM information. They know exactly the value of different user segments in their CRM database, and now they can immediately map that to the bits that they apply in search. So imagine, for instance, you're in the travel business, and you have a very clear idea on who the people are who keep canceling on you or have particularly high basket sizes. This is information that might happen very far, that it gets collected very far from the initial interaction, right? You book something, you cancel it 3 months later. That's something that a CRM system can capture, and you can immediately translate that into your search campaign. Then finally, what I'd like to bring home is that custom match is a great complement to something like RLSA. Because of the way it's implemented, custom match allows you to target a user wherever they express their identity to Google, which means it's truly cross-device, right? So an interaction on desktop, on mobile, as long as the user identifies themselves by logging in, you'll have the exact same opportunity to reach them. All right, so to best practices. 3 main recommendations. First, we encourage you to start with the most valuable audience group. So think about the people that you consider the most valuable. These could be people on your loyalty card, or people with extremely high basket sizes, frequent flyers, whatever that may be. Start there. Upload these into AdWords, and see what happens. I guess to see what happens specifically, what I mean by that is you need to bid according to the performance that you're seeing, right? So same as I said before with RLSA, a completely okay way of doing things is to add the list, apply a zero bid multiplier, and see how this list performs, and then you adjust your bid accordingly. And then finally, I said this a minute ago, make sure that you don't worry about cannibalization or interaction between different audience products. So we made sure that something like custom match and something like RSA can coexist and work extremely well together. So just add both of the lists to your ad group, bid according to the performance that you're seeing, and don't worry about figuring out on who's on who. All right, now that I've described RLSA and custom match in a bit of detail, Brandon will walk you through how these products work together and the best strategy on implementing them in a campaign.
All right. Thanks, Cedric. So as Nick mentioned earlier, keywords or the intent is really what matters. And this is still a key part of the search auction. Bidding strategy traditionally has been contextual, and that isn't changing. But with audience, we have the ability to reach the pivotal users at their pivotal point before converting, which is really powerful. So this may not sound substantial, but we're able to do this by varying bids. And bidding alone is incredibly powerful. So think about your generic campaign where you bid on keywords related to your business, where you're trying to get top ad position, but you may occasionally lose out on these top impressions. But with audiences, if you're able to know that this set of users has been to your website before, has interacted with your product, has added a product to the cart, but has yet to convert, these are a high potential value user. So the next time they're searching on Google, you can use audiences to bid up and make sure you have high ad position for these users. Or also, if there's a set of users who have been to your website before and have purchased large products in the past, or a large group of products, even more reason to bid up for these users. Now, you might be thinking, how do I apply all of these audience products across all my campaigns and ad groups? So our basic recommendation, like Cedric has mentioned, is to apply multiple lists as 0% bid only across all your ad groups, and then bid up or down based on the performance that you're seeing. And like Cedric mentioned as well, if you're not sure what bid to start with, we recommend that you start with 0% bid only, This is sort of the free, no-risk way to see what the performance stats will look like. There are certain cases where a user could be on more than one audience list in your ad group, and AdWords will use the list that has the highest bid multiplier as the one that is eligible for the auction. All right, so now let's look at an example here. So here the advertiser has created 4 audience lists. 2 are RLSA, that's the cart abandoners and the all visitors lists, and 2 where they've uploaded customer emails to create customer match lists. These are the loyal customers and the lapsed purchasers lists. As we see here, the loyal customers is being bid up at 300% because this is the list that has the most value and the lowest CPA for this advertiser. And also across all these other lists, they're still being bid up greater than 0% because they have incremental value over non-audience traffic. So really powerful. So now moving on. So as we mentioned, intent is a strong advertising signal. An audience makes your keywords even more powerful. But as advertisers add more and more keywords, and 15% of queries on Google.com are new every day, managing all these keywords across large accounts or multiple accounts can become a burden. The point I'm trying to make here is we have some great products that help automate this, such as dynamic search ads. So dynamic search ads allows Google to help find you the right keywords, and when you combine this with your audience for bidding, it's a really powerful combination. In the not too distant future, we think we can use products like dynamic search ads with audience bidding to automate the entire process. And some of our most sophisticated advertisers are already seeing great success doing this today. So as we close here, I just want to point out that we think audience signals really are the future on search. And so now I'm going to give it back to Nick so he and Laura from AdLucent can talk about how they've achieved amazing performance using search audiences.
Great. Thanks for that, Brendan, Cedric. That was really, really informative. So let's talk about real-world cases. You know, is this stuff working for real? And you've got some great examples to share with us.
Yeah, so AdLucent is a digital marketing and analytics company. We're located in Austin, Texas, and we really focus on personalized advertising using audiences. So we love RLSA, we love customer match because it takes us in the step of, really focusing on those audiences to deliver relevant messaging, relevant offers. And so, Google has been a great partner to us in coming out with these products, and we have some really good examples from some of our clients and the results that they've seen.
Great, it's great. Sounds like you guys are doing some pretty sophisticated stuff. What's your overall approach when you think of these audience search products?
Sure. So we have a few different approaches. We kind of started with the basic approach, just uploading email lists of past customers, and then we took it a couple steps further. So I have an example from one of our clients that was our first client to adopt Customer Match, Jarden Food Saver. Jarden has about 120 different brands, and Food Saver in particular really focuses on brand performance. It's very brand heavy. So they had the challenge of optimizing brand performance and gaining efficiency. So we collected their CRM data and just uploaded it to Customer Match. We bid up on these past customers, and we saw really good results, an increase in revenue per click, increase in conversion rate, decrease in CPCs, and so they were really successful in getting more efficient brand performance.
That's great. But that was your first, attempt at doing this. I know you get more and more sophisticated over time. What was the next step in terms of using these products?
So the next thing we did was we leveraged our data science team to do some basic segmentation on customers' data. And we used Guitar Center, one of our clients, to do this. So Guitar Center is the world's largest instruments retailer, and they have a huge online presence as well as brick and mortars. And we took their data and we segmented it into 4 categories. So we had guitars, drums, tech, and other. And our hypothesis was that people would perform better in the category they purchased from previously. And we were actually wrong. So they actually performed better across categories. So we had better results, better AOV, better return on ad spend when we targeted people with drum campaigns that previously purchased from guitar and vice versa.
So it sounds like you actually use the real results, the real data, not the theoretical data. Tell me more about that.
Exactly. Well, it was really helpful in learning about how these audiences behaved because it was kind of interesting that we were proved wrong initially, and we had data to prove that. And we were able to actually share those results with the client, and it helped inform some of their other marketing decisions because they were learning how these people purchased and how they behaved across category.
Great. So, you get some basics going, you use the real world data, but I know you went even further than that. What did you do next?
So next, we performed some machine learning segmentation on another client, Folica. So Folica is an online beauty retailer, and they sell dozens of different hair care brands as well as their own private label brands. And so they really wanted to reactivate dormant customers. So what we did with their data was we collected CRM data and we did some unsupervised machine learning clustering, which basically means we segmented it into buckets based on how long ago they purchased, how loyal they are to Folica, how much they've spent, and we came out with 4 clusters. So we had reactivate, grow, convert, and retain. So then we treated these different clusters differently with different bids, different messaging, and we measured how well we could reactivate, especially the reactivate and grow clusters. So we had really good results. We had over 200% increase in return on ad spend in that reactivate group, so people who had not engaged with the Folica brand in a really long period of time. And then we had a over 800% increase in click-through rate in our grow audience. And we thought that was a really good indicator of customer intent and behavior because they were now clicking through to the site and engaging with the site.
Those are amazing. So just some basic things you can do, and then as you grow with Customer Match and RLSA, you can do more and more sophisticated things, all the way to artificial intelligence clusters, whatever that means, because I don't understand what that means, but it sounds pretty sophisticated. Well, thanks for those wonderful examples. Thanks, AdLucent, for being here, and Laura, we really, really appreciate that. We love when you share these amazing results with us. It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, great. We mentioned at the beginning that we would have some Q&A, so we've gathered the top questions from the audience before the Hangout, and we'll go through them now. And we'll have Cedric and Brendan answer those, because those are too hard for me, obviously. Question number 1 is, will remarketing lists for search ads work with automated bidding products?
So the answer is yes. So today, RLSA as well as Customer Match work with our conversion optimizer algorithm, which works for target CPA as well as target ROAS campaigns. We also have support for enhanced cost per click as well. There are some nuances here though. So if you add audiences to a conversion optimizer campaign, we don't actually use the bid modifiers to change the bids. What we do use the bid modifiers for is if a user is on multiple lists, we'll pick the list that has the highest bid multiplier to use as the targeted list. But Conversion Optimizer already looks at all of the audience signals when it sets its bid as well. In terms of enhanced CPC or eCPC, the bid multiplier is actually used. So eCPC comes up with its multiplier, which is then multiplied in conjunction with the RLSA multiplier. So again, RLSA works with Conversion Optimizer as well as eCPC.
Great. Question number 2, what's the recommendation to upload new emails into customer match lists?
Yeah, I mean, the recommendation is obviously to keep your list as fresh as you can. As we alluded to in the previous conversation, a user that has a very fresh signal is usually a very good user. That means they're active. They're actively seeking your product. So uploading frequently and making sure that your list is up to date is important. Of course, it comes at a certain cost. So I'm going to repeat what I said for RLSA. Keep your lists simple and manageable. If you have fewer lists, but the most important list, you will be more able to keep them up to date and have these frequent action of removing people you don't think should be part of a list anymore and adding others that you just acquired.
Great. Keep it simple, I think, is the message here for the lists. Question number 3, is it possible to have ad groups with RLSA audiences set to bid only with a 0% modifier in order to simply monitor the performance and volume of non-RLSA versus RLSA audience within the same ad group?
Short answer is yes. So you've heard us say this a few times today, but this is our general recommendation if you're just starting out with our search audience products, is to add multiple lists as 0% bid only in your ad group. And so what this means is the 0% means that if a user is in this list, they're going to receive the same base bid they would have received if you hadn't applied audience targeting. And the bid-only targeting setting means we're not going to restrict the ad group to just people on the list. Anybody who's searching for your keyword is still eligible. We're only going to modify the bid if they're also in this audience list. And something else to keep in mind is that you can bid down as low as negative 90% or as high as positive 900% on these search audiences, or you can choose to exclude an audience altogether from an ad group.
Great. Question number 4, there's just 2 more. Number 4, how does membership status work and what are some scenarios? Data ranges to set until the audience is closed. How long can you retain these users? Is it a maximum of a 90-day window?
Sure. So the actual maximum on search is 180 days. It's important to note, though, that when you create a new list, it's going to default to 30 days. But based on your scenario, if people convert or you have a longer purchase cycle than 30 days, it can be very important to change it from 30 days to either 90 or 180 days. And if you actually change your list duration to 180 days, you can actually expect to see on average about 4 to 8% increase in conversion volumes. So again, something to also look at is the duration of these lists is very important as well.
Great. And the last question is, what's the difference between RLSA and customer match, and when can I use them together in a combined way?
So we talked about a few differences that are more mechanical, like the fact that it works extremely well cross-device, the ability to target users that had an interaction with you more than 180 days ago, and of course the fact that you don't have to put tags on your site if that's a hurdle for you. But the most important one I think I want to highlight is the fact that it allows you to bake in offline information into your campaign. So a few examples that we talked about already, but the action that's most predictive of a user value could be something that is not reflected online. I mentioned the travel agency that might consider cancellations when they set user value. But there's also many other things that can happen. A user might have had a long consideration purchase and then come into your dealership and took a certain action. These are things that are either extremely hard or impossible to implement in RLSA. So that's why putting both of them together really produces these incredible results for our partners.
That's great. Thanks for answering those questions. We'll do a quick summary, because I know there's a lot of information. It can be a little complex, but this is a really, really powerful set of search products. And I wish, when I was a search marketer, I had them, and I didn't. So I'm a little bit jealous. But just a quick summary from my perspective, having the intent of search and the keywords people are searching for combined with the power of audience is that combination that's really magical. And the way to think about this, I think, is RLSA gives you, some hints about what people are doing on your site and how you can segment that audience based on their behavior on your site. For example, have they been to your site recently or not, or how deep into your site have they gotten, including going to the cart or abandoning the cart. That's just a really amazing set of intent metrics that you can really leverage. In addition to that, on customer match, this is really about your data and your customers and your knowledge of customers that you can add to Google's knowledge of customers in search. So things that you know about your customer, whether it's online or offline, what makes a really valuable customer valuable, what makes a customer that is not as valuable. And if you can take that data and use that together with the intent data from search and RLSA, it's really, really powerful. And of course, you've got keywords, which are a strong indication of what consumers want. And it's really layering these 3 things together, RLSA and customer match and keywords together, that can help you win with search audiences. In terms of specific advice, just trying to summarize what I learned today, the first thing is this is really no risk. You can start today. If you're not doing this today, whether RLSA or customer match, you can just today go into your account and turn them on and set a 0% bid modifier. You'll get data. It won't cost you anything at all. You'll just learn. And hopefully you learn some really positive things and some new strategies you can use. But do that today. There's really no risk to doing that. And it's a first step into a winning audience strategy on search. The second thing that I heard a lot of is find out what makes a great customer. Right? You know what they're searching for? What's their behavior on your site that really is a telltale sign of a great customer? And what's the behavior in your data that's a telltale sign of a great customer? What are they doing on your website? What pages are they looking at? What do they know? What do you know about them that tells you that they're going to be a great customer? And create lists around that. Very simple lists. Maybe the 3 or 4 that you mentioned, not 20, not 100, but the lists that tell you what the most important things are that will tell you what customers, the value of a customer is. And lastly, tactically, what we're seeing is people start with RLSA and customer match and get good results. Now they want more volume. And there's a lot of, there's some work to do to make sure you can always maintain your ad groups. And whenever you set up a new ad group, always attach RLSA and customer match to it, because it's not done for you automatically. But it's really about the bidding strategy. But how you think about your bids will dictate how much volume and how many new customers you get. So think about bidding very, very carefully and very thoughtfully. Get the data from RLSA versus non-RLSA and customer match as well. As an example, if RLSA customers in a certain group convert twice as much as the average customer, it's a signal to bid up pretty significantly. So make sure you use RLSA and customer match today, set up to 0. Create some really simple lists that highlight what your best customers do. And then be diligent every week and every 2 weeks to add more groups, add groups to RLSA and customer match, and think very carefully about your bids. And that's a winning combination for search audience. We hope this was really helpful. This has been recorded, so you can watch it later. And we thank you so much for your time and appreciate everybody being here as well.